Estonia, Silja Europa. Are you calling mayday? Estonia, what's going on? Can you reply?
This is Estonia. Kuka se on täällä? Silja Europa.
The ferry Estonia's distress call offers a chilling glimpse into the final moments before the ferry went under, taking hundreds of people down into the depths of the sea. The distress call was not received until 1:22 a.m., fully 20 minutes after the disaster had already begun. By then, the ship had a list of approximately 50 to 60 degrees, and it was increasing rapidly. I want to present a summary of the German expert group GGE's final report, Estonia Ferry Disaster, Chapter 22. My name is Linnea, and over the years I have taken a deep interest in the Estonia disaster. There are several aspects I believe are important to examine more closely. The distress call is one of them. In this video, I want to take a closer look at the distress call during the final night. Unidentified vessels in the vicinity, and I also want to take a closer look at police interrogation of the ferry Mariella's captain, Jan Tore Thörnroos. The ferry Estonia was equipped with both a radio telegraph station and a radio telephone system. There were also portable radios, walkie-talkies. These walkie-talkies could transmit on emergency channel 16, but they had limited range and reliability than the fixed radio equipment on the bridge. Estonia's mayday call was transmitted on emergency channel 16 using a walkie-talkie. The audio was weak and repeatedly cut out. As already noted, the mayday call was not received until 20 minutes after the disaster had begun. That raises a critical question. Why did the distress call come so late? It is highly likely that the officers had attempted to send a mayday call earlier. At 1:22 a.m., a strained voice is heard saying, "Mayday, Mayday, Estonia, please." This plea alone may suggest that repeated attempts had already been made to reach out, but without getting through. The first voice calling mayday is believed to be Second Officer Tormi Einsalu. The voice that follows is believed to be Third Officer Andres Tammes. Tormi Einsalu reports that Estonia has a list of approximately 20 to 30 degrees. In reality, the list was closer to 50 to 60 degrees and possibly even greater. He explains that he cannot provide the ship's GPS position due to a power blackout. However, according to the German expert group's report, there was a GPS navigator on the bridge that continued to function despite the power failure. It was powered by an emergency generator and an internal backup system. Even so, Tormi Einsalu was unable to provide the ship's position. This suggests that he could not see the navigator from where he was located. If Tormi Einsalu and Andres Tammes were on the bridge, an obvious question follows. Why did they not use the ship's built-in radio equipment? Survivors later claimed to have seen the two officers leaving the bridge at around 1:25 a.m., just 3 minutes after the distress call was received. It is impossible to know whether the officers attempted to use the bridge's fixed radio systems earlier and failed, or whether other factors prevented them from using the more advanced equipment. Some believe that Captain Arvo Andresson did not allow the officers to issue a distress call. The ferry Estonia held great symbolic importance for Estonia as an independent nation. It is possible that Captain Andresson felt a strong sense of national pride. Issuing a mayday call is ultimately the captain's responsibility. Yet Captain Arvo Andresson's voice is never heard on any of the recorded transmissions. There is, however, a third voice audible in the background of the recording. This voice is believed to belong to Chief Officer Johan Härma, who can be heard shouting out Estonia's position. The distress call ended at 1:30 a.m. None of the officers involved, Tormi Einsalu, Andres Tammes, or Johan Härma, survived. Andres Tammes's body was later recovered. Tormi Einsalu was never found. Johan Härma's body is believed to still be on the bridge, though this has never been confirmed, as none of the bodies inside of the bridge were publicly identified. The Utö military radar station tracked the positions of several vessels that night, including Silja Europa, Silja Symphony, Mariella, Isabella, Finnjet, Finn Hansa, Finn Merchant, and Western. The station began receiving radar echoes from these ships starting at midnight. However, the Utö radar station plotted positions for all of these vessels except Estonia. This is despite the fact that radar stations at Ossarö, Russarö, and Orö detected echoes believed to be coming from Estonia. When the radar coordinates are compared with the locations where the wreck and the bow visor lie today, it appears unlikely that these echoes could have originated from Estonia. This suggests that the vessel believed to be Estonia was in fact another unidentified vessel. Radar stations across the Baltic Sea would detect echoes from many different vessels. Most of them had legitimate reasons for being in the area. In some cases, there was suspicion that a vessel was what was referred to as a red ship. A red ship is a military vessel from a so-called hostile nation, a foreign power. That night, a Russian research vessel was operating in the Baltic Sea near Ussarö Lighthouse. The vessel was named Leonid Bykov. To understand why this vessel may be relevant, it is necessary to understand how Russian intelligence operations functioned. It was common practice for Russian intelligence services to give their research vessels the same names as their merchant ships. These vessels were equipped with various types of surveillance systems. By giving two different vessels the same name, they could operate in different locations. While one vessel carried out its mission, the other, bearing the same name, would engage in an activity designed to draw attention. On that night, the research vessel Leonid Bykov performed an action that attracted attention. The Coast Guard near Ussarö Lighthouse observed the vessel deviating from its course and heading toward underwater rocks. Attempts were made to contact the crew in several different languages, but no response was received. The vessel passed the lighthouse and narrowly avoided the rocks. This incident occurred 1 hour after Estonia sank. Could this maneuver have been an attempt to distance the vessel from any involvement with the Estonia disaster? Perhaps the intention was to make it appear that the ship had been too far away to be connected, and therefore needed to draw attention to its presence. It was likely another vessel that radar stations at Ossarö, Russarö, and Orö detected. This unidentified vessel remained in the vicinity without offering assistance. What was it doing before, during, and after Estonia sank? Could it also have been operating under the name Leonid Bykov? One important question is whether this unidentified vessel transmitted radio signals that interfered with communications. If so, the larger question becomes, why would it do that? What is revealed in the next section, the police interrogation of Mariella's captain, Jan Tore Thörnroos, makes this question particularly relevant. Earlier that same month, in September 1994, another Russian research vessel named Volgoneft 104 was involved in a similar incident, also near Ussarö. This vessel had the same owner as Leonid Bykov. Today, Leonid Bykov sails under the name Alena. Notably, Uussaare is also the location where one of Estonia's missing lifebuoys washed ashore in 2017. It was the German group of experts who argued that there had been another unidentified vessel near Estonia, one that was never named. The Swedish Accident Investigation Commission, however, stated that there were in fact 2 vessels that had not been identified. In the 1990s, reports described the presence of 2 unknown vessels in the area that never identified themselves. Today, the Commission believes that these 2 unknown vessels were Finnjet and Finn Merchant. The failure to identify them at the time is now considered to have been the result of administrative mistakes. The 2 vessels Finnjet and Finn Merchant, Echoes, were both picked up by the radar station at Utö. Why was it assumed that the 2 were unknown vessels? Can this be true? Or had the German expert group discovered something important? Why did the vessel Leonid Bykov act the way it did that night? The captain of the ferry Mariella, Jan-Tore Thörnroos, was interrogated by criminal investigator Lars-Erik Andersson on October 6, 1994. During this police interview, Thörnroos described several notable details about the night of the disaster. Thörnroos was the captain on board Mariella. He stated that Mariella and Estonia had followed the same route during the evening. The problems began near Hangö when Estonia started to drive away. Estonia was visible on radar, and Mariella chose to plot her position. Estonia was traveling faster than recommended under the conditions. Mariella contacted Estonia's bridge to ask them to reduce speed. Instead of receiving a response from the bridge, Mariella heard a faint distress call. "Mayday, Estonia, please!" The transmission was cut off, then resumed again. In the background of the call, distress rockets could be heard. For 1 to 2 minutes, it was impossible to establish contact. When communication was finally restored, Silja Europa took over. In a separate police interview, Silja Europa's chief officer, Teijo Seppelin, stated that the radio traffic would not go through properly. When audio did come through, it sounded crackling and distorted, rather than clear as it normally would. Thörnroos also stated to the police that when Mariella attempted to relay the distress call, only Silja Europa and Mariella received the transmission. He further explained that they encountered serious difficulties when trying to contact the Coast Guard. Media reports later claimed that the Coast Guard had received the distress call. In reality, it was Mariella and Silja Europa that contacted both the Coast Guard and rescue services. Neither MRCC, Helsinki Radio, Mariehamn Radio, nor Emergency Channel 16 responded. As a result, they switched to another channel, which covers the entire Baltic Sea region. They called repeatedly, but no one appeared to be listening. The only sound heard was another station transmitting at the same time. They then attempted to contact rescue services in both Sweden and Finland, but received no response. Eventually, Finnish rescue services were contacted by mobile phone, and contact was established. One explanation for the lack of response is that these stations were unmanned. However, this does not explain why radio traffic failed to go through as it normally would. Thörnroos further states to the police that he watched Estonia sinking. He described seeing lights flashing underwater like a Christmas tree. As Mariella moved closer, Estonia disappeared from the radar. In the water, there were life jackets, life rafts, and people. It was decided that Thörnroos would be interrogated again. However, this interview is not publicly available and must be assumed to be classified. One of the key pieces of the Estonia puzzle is what happened on the bridge during the final moments. No one on the bridge survived. Access to the full distress call could have provided crucial insight into what led up to the events of that night. What we do know is that radio communication was distorted intermittent, and at times seemingly impossible. The calls were repeatedly cut off. The fact that the distress call was transmitted as late as 20 minutes into the disaster remains a troubling detail. If radio communications were deliberately interfered with, the question remains, for what purpose?
Mariella. Jo, Europa här, Mariella här var Europa, 16.
Jo, hördu, fick du klart för dig deras position? Är det de som är här till babord om oss?
Nej, jag fick ingen position av dem, men de måste nog vara här i närheten. De har 20-30 graders styrbord slagsida och blackout.
Ja, jag tror att de som är på våran babordsida här är ungefär en 45 grader kanske.
Okej, jag purrar käppan just.
Silja-Europa, Estonia.
No, Estonia, Silja-Europa.
Oletteko tulossa apuun?
Joo, kyllä. Voitteko sanoa ihan, onko teillä mitään paikkaa tarkkaan?
Mä en osaa sanoa, koska meillä on blackout tässä.
Joo, te näette